Hello guys, it's Mike here, and we're going to be going over how to analyze the different type of team comps as well as how to draft to a specific team comp. So here you see a pro draft, and for you guys that don't use pro draft, this is how you just use it. You click pro draft into the Google search bar, head into prodraft.league, and then fill out the form. You get to practice drafting. You can do mock drafting versus other players or your coach, and specifically you can use this to prepare for drafts. And as you can see here, you click ready check here. You can do bans at the same time, and then the other team does a ban. Alright, so this is how you get pro draft, and now let's go into what are the different types of team comps. So specifically, a team comp is generally your team identity of what you want to play to when you're trying to draft a win condition. So specifically, there are a few different types of team comps. The most obvious one are dive and poke. So as far as you guys might know, dive team comp is the easiest to kind of follow through. You just engage onto the enemy team. If you're a new team, I would recommend going for a dive team comp. So for example, let's go with a dive team comp for Gamercraft here, and we'll go with a poke team comp for Mike Young's team. So for example, you might want to draft 80 carry, an 80 carry pick that is really good at assisting at dive. So Varus, for example. Varus ultimate is very strong at going for those dive abilities because he can engage from a very far range and he can assist your other champions. Now over here, we're going to go with a poke team comp. So we're going to go Ezreal, and we're going to go, for example, let's say Karma, double poke bot lane. They're going to try and out poke Varus. But actually, one thing that's interesting enough is Varus is both poke and dive because he can set up with the ultimate and he can poke with his Q. That's why Varus is quite a strong pick. And then let's go even more dive. Let's go Alistar was banned, so let's go Leona. And then here, usually we would want to pick support here, Leona, because we see a poke champion. We already see the support Karma. So usually dive counters poke because you don't want them to poke you forever. You just want to engage on them, make them scared to even walk in your range to poke you. And we also want a jungler that is very strong at just locking down champions that are just trying to run away, that are just trying to take short trades. Vi will force them into, getting melee combat. So Vi Leona Varus, that already looks really scary, right? In this situation, we're full committing to the poke. So Zoe here, let's ban, because we're playing Zoe in this situation. Let's ban some counters in the mid lane that could be quite annoying. So like LeBlanc wants to dive onto me. Here you can ban junglers because we haven't banned junglers yet. So for example, in this case, you can ban more based off of OPGG. So we'll just ban some, just random junglers in this case. Just like tank junglers. Usually with poke champions, tank junglers are great. Specifically because you want to be able to frontline for these type of squishy champions, since you already have a squishy support, right? So that's why, like, usually tank junglers are great to ban when it comes to playing like these squishy. So for example, we can even ban like Jarvan. Because full tank Jarvan's kind of annoying, and it's a decent frontline, which is what they use in World Finals, EDG, I believe, 1 versus Dongwon with the Jarvan pick. And here we're gonna just full commit with like the engage. So we're playing against the engage comp. So for example, let's just pick like some disengage. He's a tank jungler. He has some disengage with his ultimate, and kind of supports and covers for the poke laners. In this situation, we're still committing to the dive, so we really want another mid laner that can follow up with dive. So for example, like Syndra, very good at killing squishies. If you want to be even more aggressive in this case, you can even go like Diana. Like Diana is just like a pure straight dive assassin. Remember how we were talking about how assassins are so good against squishy champions? Here's a great example of when you can go Diana. You can also go like Silas if they have good ultis, but Zoe ulti's not really great to steal from. And then we can pick again. So top laner with really strong dive. Let's think about it. Bled. Even Malphite. And then here we can full commit with the poke. So now let's analyze each champion's win condition. There isn't straight up one team that will just win off of draft. There's always a win condition for each draft. Sure, one draft might have it easier than the others. One draft might be more forgiving to make mistakes. One draft might be you lose as soon as you make a mistake. So think about it for a while. You can pause the video, but I'm going to continue. So left side, very obvious. We have a dive team comp. Right side, very obvious. We have a poke team comp. So left side wants to get on top of the right side. Right side wants to stay far range, destroy them from afar before they get into range. And by the time they get into range, they're already half HP and they'll lose the fight. Now, here's one thing, a very obvious characteristic that you might notice when it comes to poke champions. Usually poke champions are really strong early game in lane as well. So that's also a win condition to, go for. For example, Jace, poke champion, really strong laner. Zoe, poke champion, really strong laner because you can pick up random summoner spells and just spam them. Karma, definitely a really strong laner. Ezreal, not so much of a insane laner, but the Karma makes up for it because you have double poke versus, Leona is just engaged. So if these guys in the bot lane specifically poke out Leona, then Leona can't even engage. That is a win condition. Early game laning phase. If Zoe pokes out Diana, then she can't even get ganked. If Jace just destroys Kled from laning phase 1v1, you can see a very clear distinction, which is these champions are really strong. They're most likely going to win lane 1v1. The scary part is if a jungler ganks or if they don't consistently snowball. Now let's think about the left side. All Vi needs to do is shut down the lanes, make them scared to poke, or just gank them so they can't poke in lane. They can't play aggressive, they can't push. Vi's really good at doing that. These champions are really good at setting up for ganks. Now, left side's win condition is to set up Vi for ganks and to be strong enough to just initiate all the time before they get poked down. Right side's team comp is to prevent that. And that's where warding is important. That's where tracking the enemy jungler. That's where Gragas skipping camps to help his team more. So learning the different types of team comps are going to help your team evolve in playing different win conditions and knowing how to transition each player's role. So for example, right side's role could be, okay, Gragas, you need to cover Jace early game, but afterwards, we need you to cover bot lane because Varus and Leona have insane engages after level 6. They have double engages, and if you're not bottom here, we're gonna instantly die. Now, if I had to put my money on one comp, which would it be, guys? You can pause the video, think about it. So it would be left side blue team comp. If this were a tournament game, I would put my money on left side because right side has a ticking time bomb. Yes, they have the win condition of, okay, we can win through laning phase and we can poke in team fights, but they make one mistake, they misstep one time, they mistrack by one time, boom, they're dead. They will continue to get engaged on. Now, that doesn't mean that blue side will win every single time. There's plenty of examples where like poke will beat dive, but I think dive does beat poke more often than not. So that's an example of, all right, this team comp, we're going to play to the dive win condition. This team comp, we're playing to the poke win condition. So these are types of team comps that you can incorporate in your tournament play. You can practice with both. For example, if you have one, think about this really hard. If you have a mid laner that's really good at picking a poke, playing a poke, control mage type of style, long range type of style, or Ezreal, or for example, an AD carry that plays more safe, then maybe the poke longer range playstyle fits you. But if you have really strong jungler in your team comp, if you in your team, you have a really strong assassin player in mid lane, and you have a really strong bruiser player in top lane, and a really strong engage supporter, you might want to play the dive team comp. There are other types of team comps that you can learn though. These aren't the only two. The other two that are important to learn are globals. Actually, there are a few. There's globals, there's protect the carry, like Lulu, and then there's early game versus late game, and then there's team fighting versus split pushing. So I'm sure you guys have heard of many of those. So let's go over the champions that are specifically great for early game. So early game champions are specifically champions that are great for laning phase and snowballing and skirmishing in the early game. So great champions for that would be like Caitlyn, Karma bot lane, Jace top lane, Zoe mid lane. You can even go Lucian mid lane, Lucian bot lane, Kalista or Draven bot lane. Junglers that have insane CC early game like Elise, Xin Zhao, Rek'Sai, insane gate setup. Now late game champions are usually the protect the AD carrier, protect the control mage mid champions. So for example, like Aphelios Lulu, Ezreal, Yuumi, Shen top protects the AD carry. Mid lane, it could be like Malzahar CC can protect your AD carry. So if you pair Malzahar with like a Aphelios, or Malzahar with like a really strong Ezreal with a Yuumi attached. Other examples that make more sense when it comes to protect the carry are usually when you have like an enchanter support, like Lulu, Janna, Yuumi, Nami. When you have protect the carry, you might want a tank top lane, CC jungler. Mid lane can be some disruptor, or can be a control mage so that they don't stack armor. So that's what you think about when it comes to protect the carry. Usually protect the carry is late game because you're scaling with your AD carry or your mid laner. Next thing is early game team comps, which we kind of went over briefly, but I want to go into that more in depth, which is usually when you have an early game team comp like Draven or Caitlyn, you want to pair, you don't want just the lane to be early game and just the lane to be super aggressive. You also want a jungler that can impact it. So for example, like if you have like a Caitlyn Karma bot lane, right? You want a jungler that can easily start top, path bottom, and have CC to set up the Caitlyn Karma lane. Because Caitlyn Karma doesn't have straight engage abilities. So if you have like a Jarvan with Caitlyn Karma, then if Caitlyn Karma ever gets the bottom laners low, Jarvan can just tower dive. Or you can go even Elise for a very extreme example for that good tower dive. So that's a good example there. And then we haven't gone over split pushing. The reason why I leave split pushing for last is because I tried to stay away from split pushing recommendations when it comes to recommending that type of team comp for tournament play, because Tournament play, you don't want to play a 4v5. You want to play 5v5s. And when you play split pushing, it means that you have to give up a lot of objectives and a lot of control. You have to give up a lot of dragons sometimes. You're not going to be as strong in team fighting. You might have to give up a lot of heralds. You might have to give up a lot of towers while your split pusher gets really fed. And it puts the game mainly on one player's shoulders rather than 5 people more actively contributing to help each other. But if you do have a top laner that's like an insane smurf, good split pushers would be like Camille. Good split pushers would be like Fiora, Irelia. TF is a good split pusher because he can help your top laner in terms of like helps with dives, with vision, and he can just go on the opposite side lane too. So those are good examples. I'm sure there are more top lane champions that can be really good split pushers, but the ones that come up top of my mind are Camille. Jeremier is also a good one. And generally speaking, try to stay away from split pushing because it avoids a lot of team play mechanics in macro. So those are my recommendations for the different types of team comps. Try out each one or try the one that best suits your team because you want to take a look at what type of champions your teammates want to play and how you want to play each specific role. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. We'll see you guys in the next